Intel just announced their latest 12th gen Intel CPUs, and it looks like they finally managed to innovate a little, and they look like some damn good products. There's also a rumor going around that Intel's coming out with their own proprietary graphics cards. What happened to make Intel change so drastically? Is this enough to make us actually trust that they're going to continue to innovate, or is this all just a disguise? The answers to all these questions and to really understand what's going on with Intel here at Techonomics. Hey, it's Carlos, always trying to provide you with insight on technology and how it's affecting you and the world at large. You know, I've been so disillusioned with Intel over the past couple of years that I decided to go AMD when I bought my computer earlier this year. So it's really refreshing to see this change, but let's get some context to understand why they had to push so much towards innovation in the first place. So without getting too into the weeds, Intel has been around since 1968. They and AMD have been in a constant rivalry since the 1980s, and it wasn't until the 2010s that Intel was declared the undisputable winner of the CPU wars. And that is very obvious when you look at this graph of revenue for Intel over time. Since 2009, Intel has continued to grow, and doesn't that just prove that they're the best? Especially when you compare them to this graph where it's obvious that AMD has been stagnant for the better part of a decade. Well, revenue isn't everything, which gets exactly to the problem. The fact of the matter is that Intel, instead of continuing to innovate, has become completely stagnant. They've been stuck using a 14 nanometer process for roughly a decade, and just so it's clear what that means, for comparison, AMD uses a 7 nanometer process and Apple uses a 5 nanometer process on their computer processors. A smaller process leads to more power efficiency and the ability to put more cores in one chip, which also leads to better performance. But it really shouldn't be a surprise that they were having these stagnation issues, considering their CEO from 2013 to 2018 was Brian Krzanich, which, while he was an engineer at some point, his history shows that he's always been more focused on business, and that can be seen with his tenure as CEO in Intel. Instead of improving their lineup of CPUs, it was incremental change after incremental change. His real progress came in diversifying the business portfolio, which I'm sure made the stockholders happy, just not the consumers. Same with his replacement, Robert Swan, who didn't even have any sort of engineering background to begin with. He was just a business executive. Someone with absolutely no engineering experience was leading an engineering company. It is for that very reason, the fact that there was a lack of focus on making better products, that consumers at large have migrated in recent years over to AMD chips for their computers instead of Intel. They offer a better performance and are even more power efficient. By the way, you can watch this video to get a brief history of AMD and to know how they were saved from the brink of bankruptcy. But the TLDR was that they hired some engineers that they knew were going to make better products. They hired Jim Keller, an engineer and architect, to spearhead the project, as well as Lisa Su, who eventually became CEO and has led AMD to the current resurgence that they are experiencing right now. Suffice to say that being a tech company, and a hardware company at that, isn't just about abusing your consumer base and expecting them to always buy your subpar products. They won't always vote blue no matter who, especially when Team Red is coming out with some amazing products of their own. But while it might have taken a while, it looks like Intel has finally come to their senses and are making some big changes that are going to make their consumers flock right back into their arms. So how did Intel start making substantial changes? Well, funnily enough, they just took a page out of AMD's playbook and decided to switch their CEO. They replaced Bob Swan with Patrick Gelsinger in early 2021, though it was announced in 2020. This Stanford engineering alum has been a staple of Silicon Valley for decades, moving across many well-known companies. He was the CEO of VMware, COO of EMC. He worked for Intel for 3 decades and is credited with architecting the 80486 processor. It's pretty damn clear that this guy knows how to make a processor, and it's mighty time that someone who knows how to make one was in charge of Intel, a microprocessor company. This guy made some major moves right out of the gate. First things first, hiring. He enticed tons of people to come back to Intel and bring their expertise with them. This was extremely important because while Intel does have plenty of talent, many did end up leaving because of the lack of innovation in the company. This was also an investment towards the future of Intel because many engineers, younger ones at that, will be able to learn from these old-timers and build their knowledge going forward. The other major move that he made was to double down on their investments in making their own chips. They announced several new semiconductor fabrication plants, one of which was going to be in the United States. And this is very important because Intel is one of the only microprocessor companies that produce their own chips. So spending $20 billion on a new plant is telling the whole world that you are confident that you're going to need to produce that much more product. And to top it all off, Gelsinger also announced that they will be creating a new monetary vertical in manufacturing CPUs for other companies, something that they've never done before, but frankly is a no-brainer considering that they have plenty of space in their existing fabs and will have plenty more space when they create new ones. With all of this, it's pretty clear that Pat Gelsinger knows what he's doing and that there's hope for the future of Intel. But what products can we expect, and will they actually excite us unlike the Intel of the past? Well look, Pat hasn't been CEO for very long, so we can't get too excited about anything just yet. But there are two major products that have either just come out or are projected to come out very soon. First, you have the latest Intel 12th Gen CPUs. Finally, it has happened and Intel is no longer using 14 nanometer. They have switched to a 10 nanometer process, and that has opened the door to tons of potential technological advancements. The most obvious of which is they have increased the amount of cores on their CPUs, which is going to improve the performance, along with a big little design to have efficiency cores alongside the high performance ones and DDR5 compatibility. The second product is Intel dedicated graphics cards. There have been rumors about this for a while now, and Intel has already confirmed that it's going to launch at the start of 2022. With a projected performance rivaling that of a RTX 3070, it's more than welcome. Look, we need to see it to believe it, but suffice to say that Nvidia needs more competition, because that's the only way to have better products and better prices for the rest of us. And with all these cool new toys coming out from Intel, I think I'm gonna have to agree with Pat Gelsinger in saying Intel is back. Hey guys, thanks for watching another video. Please hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm and I'm always very grateful. Comment down below with what you guys think of the new and improved Intel. Will these changes be enough, or is the momentum that AMD's having just too much? If you had to buy a PC today, which CPU would you choose? Looking forward to seeing what you guys think. As always, it's Carlos from Techonomics, over and out.